Go.
Hi, friends. I am Tosh, and this is Unwritten Rules of the Road. We are joined today by the incredible Rogue of the Crüxshadows. Rogue, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
You have a couple shows coming up, which is very exciting. I'm so grateful that you're willing to take the time in the midst of your prep. You have a show this coming Thursday and Friday in Texas. How is the show prep going?
It's going well. I feel really good. The band sounds good. We've had no major problems going forward so far, which in and of itself is maybe a little bit concerning because usually there's some sort of major setback, and the fact that we haven't had any, I hope that the other shoe isn't going to drop. So yeah, but yeah, things have been going really well. And I'm just hoping there's a good turnout, and it's a good set of shows. So we're doing it for the World Goth Day. So I guess World Goth Day Eve and World Goth Day. So it's like Christmas. We're going to celebrate the Eve too.
I love it. Have you performed on around World Goth Day before, or is this a first?
No, no, no. I don't think so. And I mean, I suppose I have because a number of years ago I went on a tour that lasted from September to September. So that would mean probably we were performing on World Goth Day somewhere. But in all honesty, no, it's not been something that we did anything that was centered around that.
Yeah, so I saw the lineup that Naika, which is the promoter, put together, and I was like, this is going to be such a fantastic show. Yeah, and such a celebration. I love that World Goth Day has been a thing I've been seeing coming into the ethers. So yeah,
Well, I think it's cool that it has that it's stuck. You know,
yeah.
the so many people. I mean, people come up with so many different ideas, and some of them will last a year or two, and then they're gone. And this one is kind of stuck around, and people have kind of given it legitimacy. So I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's such a beautiful community. I think it's something where for those who have been in the shadows and found their home for the first time, it's such a beautiful place to be like, oh, it's okay to be different and to be willing to explore dark music, dark culture, that sort of thing. So yeah,
Well, yeah,
I see it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, you're up.
Oh, I see Ryben is saying I'm excited for this one. I've been a fan of Crüxshadows since high school around 2004. Thank you for being here.
Well, great. Where are they coming to the show?
Good question. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay, so we'll see. Ryben, are you going to be able to make it out to the show? Um, I love your Audrey. Audrey, is it a photo or a book in the
Oh, it's a
background?
book. It's a book I picked up, and I didn't have a place to put it, so I just threw it over there. I love Audrey Hepburn.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, I I love all kinds of pop culture things. Uh, you know, on two different levels. Kind of the pure level of it. I just love it for what it is, but then I also love the absurdity of it all. So, I don't know. I love Audrey Hepburn. She's good.
She's
Marilyn Monroe,
amazing.
Elvis Presley, it's all good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Do you have any favorites of Audrey work?
Um, yeah, I think that I think Breakfast at Tiffany's is, an obvious one, but I don't know that there was anything that I was that I didn't like from Audrey Hepburn, but um what's the one in Rome with I guess is it Cary Grant?
Oh, yes. I'm trying to remember that one.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway,
It'll come. Yes.
but yeah,
Charade? Was it Charade?
I don't think it was. Maybe it was her
A different
name
one.
or the name of the
Yeah.
character. Um,
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Big fan as well.
Yeah,
I think she's also like a part of just classic cinema that's just amazing. So
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I love watching old movies, and you see the way that things have changed, the things that have I don't know, we as a society have kind of gone through so many different looks and feels and ways of thinking about things, and you watch these old movies, and it's I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean it's I love when you see modern cinema that brings in like the storytelling and the classic cinema as well. But yeah, there's something about the way that it really goes heavily into like the storytelling that I think is amazing.
Right.
So yeah, yeah. So I was curious, like, do you have particular ways that you get ready for shows? Um, as you're in
In
prep mode?
in what regards? Like
Well,
almost definitely, but I don't know specifically what you're talking about, so it's hard for me to answer that question.
sure. Well, so like you personally, like you're a very active performer, and you have a very big presence on stage. So just wondering in the weeks leading up to shows, are there certain things that you do to get ready with your voice and that sort of thing?
Um, I mean, to get ready in terms of my voice, I mean, obviously, rehearsals. We do regular rehearsals, but leading up to shows. But uh, as far as any kind of special vocal preparation, not really. The only thing that I can think of in that regard is, like, for example, when I actually perform shows, I'll do things like I have these sort of special lozenges that I will stick back in the back of my mouth to kind of, and it kind of just sits there and, I don't know, keeps it somewhat lubricated, because I have this problem when I perform. A lot of times I get so enthusiastic about things that I will push too hard. And
Mm,
you do that, then you start losing elements of your range. And in a lot of ways, I'm really fragile vocally, because getting a little cold or any little thing can mess me up pretty badly. But at the same time, I think my threshold is pretty gregarious, and I'm able to really perform on some level, despite being at a disadvantage. So um, yeah, as vocally, that's about it. But there are, hold on one second. What? I over there somewhere. Sorry. Like I say, we're getting ready to go on the road, and they're asking for stuff from me. So, did you find them?
un
No. Yeah, I don't know where they are either. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, what the question? Is there things I do, special for preparation? I mean, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of things that I, have my own little sort of rituals and, things that I do, to get myself into that headspace. And because when you do go on stage, particularly with the larger crowds, you can't have any self-doubt. You can't have any fear of the crowd. You can't have any of that. You really have to go out there and say, I own this,
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of little I don't know, superstitions and things that I'll do. Might I don't know. I don't know.
I think that's really, really amazing because from the clips I've seen, I've never had the opportunity to see you live, and I'm hoping I'm able to like align the planets when hopefully when you come to the West Coast. But from what I've seen, it's like there's a real presence and just such a emotive quality to your performance. And yeah, I was curious because you have a very strong voice and strong presence, and so. I imagine, yeah, to be like in the music and also be able to connect with the audience, it's such a bike, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if they're one and the same,
Yeah.
the idea, I think, at least for Crüxshadows, is that you you know, really have to have your rehearsals. You have to have your timing. You have to have everything down to the best that you can have it, to the best of your ability, so that when you are on stage, you're not thinking about, oh, what's the next lyric? Of course, anyone who's ever seen me live knows that I'm not thinking about what's the next lyric, because I'm not sure I've ever sang the same lyrics from one show to the next the same way. But I don't know. Memorization was never my strong point.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, well, I wrote it. I can change it around.
Yes, you have artistic license. Yes. Well, I think that's really awesome because I feel like I've talked to different artists who have like terrible stage fright, and it's amazing that you're like, okay, there's no fear. I'm going out here, and yeah. Has it always been that way for you?
Probably the truth is I started as a child actor, and I was very, very young. Now I wasn't a film or TV actor. I was a stage actor, and so from a young age, I was doing all kinds of plays. I was in the workhouse. Oliver Twist. I did a number of those kinds of things. I went on tour as a child actor. Um, so I guess on some level I was used to being in front of audiences, and I I don't think I think I've always been somewhat self-actualized in that I maybe believed in myself more than I was concerned about what other people thought. Um,
Mm,
and I not that I wasn't concerned about what other people thought. I think everyone falls into that um, you know into that category on some level. But I think that on some level, I really cared what I thought. I
mm,
cared how I saw myself, and maybe how I interpreted how other people saw me. Um, and so it wasn't about being wanting to be seen the way that other people wanted to see me, but rather being seen the way I wanted other people to see me. And so I think that's been very much part of my my stage presence, but also I've really just believed you go out there and you do it, and you do it for real, and it's not a some kind of a faking, or some kind of a you know some kind of hold on a second. What?
Wait, I'm interrupting it anyways.
Sorry.
it's okay.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm very,
Oh no,
but there's
it's
lots of people asking me lots of things. So,
I understand. I like I said, I appreciate you taking the time in the midst of your tour prep. I know
no,
you have
not
so
not
much.
I'm excited to do it, and hopefully we can maybe drum up a little bit more support for these shows in Texas. I haven't been to Texas in almost 10 years, at least
Yeah.
been to Texas in terms of of playing a show. I think the last show we played was like in Austin, almost a decade ago. And, so it's been a while since we were, in Texas, and hopefully people haven't forgotten us, and they'll, show up and have a good time.
I have a feeling you'll get a lot of love there. Yes. Yeah, like we were mentioning earlier, before the stream started, in terms of traveling out there, there's going to be like a matter of either driving or flying. So I'm sure there's like a metric ton of logistics to figure out as you're.
There's I mean, we basically take a skeleton crew on the road initially. So myself and some of the technical people, the crew people, and then one or two other band members, will jump in there. But it's mostly me, my daughter, and the crew, and then most of the other musicians will fly, to the show. If we have a few shows to do, in an area or something along those lines, similar to the situation now where we're playing in Houston and we're playing in Dallas-Fort Worth. I guess we're doing Dallas-Fort Worth first, and then we're doing Houston, so Thursday and Friday. But the band will ride with us between shows, and then they'll all fly back after that. But it's very different from the old days where we were, I don't know, we used to tour in something that wasn't much better than a pickup truck with a covering on it, I think. There were three of us, and one person was sleeping in the back with the speakers while the other two were, in the front seat. But we've toured in so many different ways, everything from flying two shows, nightliners, bands, to, I think at one point we were two Jeep Cherokees, like, touring around the country. So we've really done it all from soup to nuts, from the bottom to the top and back. So.
I read an interview with you, and it was a while back when I might have read and watched a few,
Okay.
but there was one where you guys had barely had any sleep, and you still put on this incredible show. And the person that was interviewing you mentioned that. And something that struck me was just how incredibly dedicated you guys are to putting on the best show possible, like regardless of, whatever circumstances or sleep or anything like that. And I just really respect that, that there's so much love that goes into what you bring to your performance.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I think that's very, very true. We, like I said, I did the child actor thing, and there's very much, the show must go on. It doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
what the situation. You have to find a way to perform. So, in that regard, we have had all kinds of situations. I mean, I can remember performing with a 103, 104 fever.
Wow.
I remember one show in particular. I had basically laryngitis, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to sing a word, but I went out there and I performed. It probably wasn't anything you want to listen to, but people were particularly people in the band were really amazed that I was able to go out and actually sing. I remember another show. We crossed the North Sea from Scandinavia down to Scotland, and there was a huge storm that that hit us, and it was awful. We were in 12-foot swells, and I got seasick, and we were all beat up because we're getting thrown around on this ship when we crossed the North Sea. But we arrived kind of in pieces, but the show must go on. So off you go to the venue, and you find a way to perform. And I think that's that's part of our, ethos. It's part of, who we are. Um, you 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 do the show to the best of your abilities, and I guess for me the fans are so important, and I don't want to disappoint one of them. um, I really want to give them what they're hoping for, what they're expecting, what they're believing that we're going to bring. And I think that's the one of the biggest letdowns for me, is if I feel like we haven't given them that.
Mm.
So I always wanted to be the band, that I would be a fan of, if and kind of treat people the way that I would want to be treated as a fan of like that. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just wanted to take a moment, by the way, and just share some love that you're getting in the chat. Ryben mentioned that Ryben's in Virginia.
Oh,
He said, "I wish I could make it, but I'm from Virginia, but I would love to go to a show soon, hopefully." Also, Princess Chimera, I think it says the movie was Roman Holiday.
it is
Um,
New Rome within the.
Roman Holiday. And I am so sorry. I feel like I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but Schnis Schnat Schnashnati. Oh, I am so sorry. Said, I found you at Mira Luna 2017. Will you be in Germany anytime soon?
Oh, I would love to be in Germany. This is a lot of our we have a lot of fans in Germany, and we have a lot of fans in Europe. But since the pandemic, everything has changed in terms of
Mm,
our ability to tour. One of the biggest things that happened in the pandemic was, we found ourselves really unable to, collect any of that free money that everyone was talking about. Like we didn't get that. And so, we had a tour planned. At that time we would have been in Europe in 2020. There were shows booked. Those were all canceled. That created all kinds of problems for us. And we basically found ourselves in these huge monetary setbacks. And so our reserves were eaten up by the pandemic, and at the same time, much of our infrastructure that allowed us to tour all over the world really crumbled. And
mm,
much of those things have not come back. They have not, been put back together. And then there's a lot of difficulty, traveling internationally now, with such a large group, with so much equipment. There's so much weight involved. The airlines have gotten, even stricter in regards to what they will allow you to travel with. And it just putting a Crüxshadows show on the road, we would really need some big investment. The other thing that happened around the pandemic is Crüxshadows became an independent band again. So we had been with a very large label, previous to that, and there was money to do things, but we find ourselves in a different world. And so when you get into all these countries and the rules they have, and the all kinds of risks involved with doing everything, you get involved. You look at the costs involved with the tours. You look at the just the putting it all together. It's become really difficult, and I think that a lot of people were spoiled because from, I guess, 2000 to around 2018 or 2019, one of those, we were in Europe every single year. We were doing things over there. I mean, really, I was in Europe as often as I was in America. But that's just not the case anymore. And I really, really want to go back to Germany. I want to go back to the other country. We get a lot of people from Great Britain also. Hey, when do you come to Great Britain? Well, it's bad enough trying to get back to Europe, but trying to get to Great Britain since the Brexit is even more difficult. And it takes on just a whole new level financially. And I think the problem is that you can't go and do these tours and lose money. It has to be something where you're coming out in a positive. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the honest answer is I really want to, but outside of some investment, I mean, maybe some fans get together and put together some kind of thing to raise money to do something over there, but there's just a lot of cost, a lot of people that have to be paid in order to make a Crüxshadows show happen.
Yeah, I appreciate the honest answer. And it's admirable that you have, operated independently since the pandemic as well. And it is so many logistics that that goes into, I mean, just a domestic show, but then flying internationally. And you guys do have such a big show. Is it 6 or 7 of you at this point?
There are 6 musicians on stage, and if we are so at some shows we will have our dancers. We have the dancers. It can be 8 or 9 people on stage. Then I have crew people, and all of these people need to be paid. All of
Yeah.
them, are making sacrifices in order to do this. There's airfare. I have to fly people just to put things together, and there's a lot of cost. There's a lot of cost.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I hear all the time, oh, come to Rhode Island, come to Minnesota, come to Oregon. Yeah, I'd love to. I would absolutely love to, but we have to be able to to make money, and those are just domestic things. So when they're saying, oh, come to Brazil, come to Germany, come to Japan, great, but how do I put that together? Because I'd love to be able to just sign my name and it becomes money, but it's not quite like that, not yet.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do like, you kind of planted a little bit of a seed, where you
Mhm.
were like, maybe some fans will get together and maybe make that possible. And I do see a lot of community support that's happening that's making things possible. So
Okay, so a lot of bands have done all of these things, and I'm a dinosaur. I've been doing this a long time, and the my paradigm of how the music industry works is disappearing. And
mhm.
Crüxshadows has been very fortunate because we've been able to continue kind of doing things our way, but like I say, the music industry has changed dramatically, and there's a lot of crowdfunding, kind of thing. There's people doing Patreons and stuff. I just always operated on the concept of I will make a music, piece of music, and I will sell you the piece of music. I will do a concert, and I will sell you the concert. I will make some kind of merchandise, and I will sell you the merchandise. And those were the ways that we made money. But the thing is that merchandise, the cost of merchandise is just astronomical. And I know any fans that are watching are saying, well, then lower the price. But that's not what I mean. I mean the cost of producing it is astronomical, and our margins are so low, and there's so many things to pay for, from the profits of those things that it becomes really, really difficult. You know, the t-shirt companies are charging me almost the same amount that I was charging for the shirts just a few short years ago. So when people come in, well, why are you charging all this money for a t-shirt? Well, I don't have any other option. If I sold it for what I used to sell it for, we'd be giving it to you, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's really difficult. Music sales, are, that's, changed too. It used to be that, in the old days, vinyl and CDs and stuff like that, people would go in and they would spend how much? They buy 2, 3 CDs or 2, 3 records or 2, 3, whatever a month, of the bands that they liked, and they're spending $15 to $20 on each one of those things. So you figure they're spending $60, on albums. But along comes streaming music, and now you spend your $15 and you get every song you ever heard of. And so the cap is cut off at $15. And then aside from that cap being cut off at $15, the the streaming services take half of that or more in some cases. And then that half of your monthly fee is then divided between every single artist that you listen to. Okay. So, when it comes down to, on average, musicians are receiving fractions of a penny, for each song that's played. And that song play has really replaced the purchasing that would have brought a lot more money. So you can't really make money, from selling your music the way that at least the way that you used to. The thing is concerts. Okay, well, you can make money off of concerts, right? But the price of gas, the cost of travel, these are things that go into it. All the people you have to pay, the better your show, you have to pay people to make that happen. There's a person to operate the sound and the video and the lights, and to sell the merchandise and to drive the vehicle, and all the different things that have to be done. And so I find I'm looking at the kind of world that we're living in, and it's funny because as a culture we place so much importance on art and music, and yet these are the people that we largely don't want to pay. It's mostly the really the top tenth of the top 1% are the people that are living the high life. It's the everyone else is really fighting to be doing what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, what are the best ways that your fans can support you? Because you mentioned like different things. So, what are the ways?
Okay, first of all, let me say, the reason Crüxshadows is still alive and kicking is because our fans have been so supportive, and there are amazing, generous fans who have sent us money at various points, and I can't express to you just how significant that can be. One of the things that I have regularly done is I will write a song. People keep saying, well, when is Crüxshadows going to do a new album? And I largely look at this in a completely different way than I used to. Albums don't make money the way that albums used to make money. And not only do they not make money, you spend all your time and all your energy, spend 3 years of your life, and that's what typically takes me to put an album together, about 3 years. You spend 3 years of your life and you make this album, and people listen to 1 or 2 songs. They sort of discard the rest. I mean, there's a few people that will listen to the whole thing, and I love them. I love those people, but the majority of people are not going to listen to the album. They're just going to listen to the highlight songs from it. And you take my last actual album, Astromythology, and I was able to record Astromythology, partially in Europe and partially here in Florida. I did a bunch of the recording myself, but I was able to go into a big studio in Germany, work with a really incredible producer. I co-produced it, but we worked together and we made an album that is the album I've always wanted to make. So often with my albums before, because we were just putting things together with duct tape and shoestrings and zip ties and super glue, that literally I was putting out the best thing that I possibly could, but it was difficult. And when I had the major label support that I had from Europe, I was able to actually do it the way I wanted to do it. Well, I put that album out, and every single song on that album I put my heart and soul into. Every single song. There is no B material, there is no filler, there is nothing that I just threw on there to fill it out. um, every single song was meaningful to me, and I gave it 110%, in each of those songs. I love that album. I can actually listen to that album. I can't listen to most of my other stuff because it's like, oh my God, I hear the problem here, I hear the problem there. Um, but Astromythology, I walked away from it going, that was something I can be proud of. That's
Mm.
that's something that I feel like I did something amazing, right? But even with Astromythology and every single song having so much effort and energy put into it, right? Um, People still listen to two or three songs, and they miss
Mm.
some of the really good ones because we got dropped from our label in Europe. um we had the first two songs went to number one, and the third song went to number two, and then we got dropped. So there were no other songs to be released, but I had big plans for the songs after that, and
Yeah.
the I felt like every one of them could have been a single itself. So I started thinking about this because I guess in the olden days, when you're Elvis Presley and you got a song and you're putting out your song, and then some guy over here, I don't know, Fabio's making a record, and you want people to buy your album over his album, so you go and put an extra song on the other side of the vinyl. Well, and then he does the same thing. Well, okay, we're going to put three or four songs on it. Oh, we're going to use this new format and squeeze more songs on it to get you to buy the song we want you to buy. And as a result of that, a lot of music, particularly from the 50s and maybe the early 60s, is filler.
Mm.
You got the two or three songs that were really meant to get to the audience, and then you have an awful lot of songs that are just there to take up space or to convince someone to buy things. But as the 60s started moving forward, artists were going, wait a second, I've got all these slots for songs. I'm going to do something conceptual. I'm going to link these things through. And so you get you know the Pink Floyds of the world, going in and creating a concept album that tells a cohesive story. And so the idea of the album really exploded in the 60s and 70s, 80s. This was the way that things went. But really towards the end of the 90s, with all the file sharing, and the invention of iTunes, people started going after the one song they wanted and not the whole album. And that really has hit its apex in the land of streaming music, which is what the world is now. So instead of writing albums, because I wrote my great album, I wrote Astromythology, I'm so proud of it, I feel like it was so good. I don't have the production capabilities to put an album like that together, but
Mm.
I can put a song like that together. And so what I noticed was this, and this is again just my personal take on things, and I'm sure
Mhm.
plenty of people disagree with me. But I you release an album, and it's like you get a month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe 4 months of attention for that album, and then everybody forgets it, and then it's all old. It's all yesterday. Now they want the new thing. So my thought is, well, I can write, one, two, maybe three songs a year, and I can piecemeal those things out, every, so often. And it brings the attention to that song that I really want it to have. And the people don't get to pick which song they're going to download. They download the one that I put up because that's the only song. It's a single. There's nothing else. So if you want the new song, here's the new song. And it allowed me to curate the music that I'm making. And it gave me a little bit more of the power back. Because in the album days, the record labels had the power. And, you know, to a certain extent, you know, for better or for worse, the fans now have the power. But as the artist, I want the power. I want the ability to say, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. So
Yeah.
people say, are you going to make any more albums? And I said, well, I'm not. Well, never say never, first of all.
Hmm.
But I think that if I do an album, it will, you know, largely fall into categories like I might put together a kind of greatest hits of Crüxshadows, or maybe a rarities disc of Crüxshadows, or you know some sort of collection. I've done a Christmas song every year since, I don't know, 2000, too old for me to remember. And you know, I think it would be really cool to take all of those Christmas songs, which are free. You can go download them right now. Every single one of you can just, you know, stock up on Crüxshadows Christmas songs right this second, you know, on our website. Um, but I think it'd be cool to put those onto a physical album. And you could have it as a Christmas present, you know, give it to someone, you know, and like that, and maybe you know I do something special to make it a little different. But that might be something that you know I think about doing sometimes. Maybe taking some of there's a number of tracks that are not available you know commercially right now, putting a lot of those things on. Crüxshadows is done, particularly in the old days, we did a lot of covers. I mean, not a lot of covers, but yeah, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 covers, you know.
Yeah.
Putting those things out as some kind of a thing. The big problem there is that somebody else is going to make all the money from it, because you're basically paying the songwriter, because as I pointed out, the streaming revenues are not so impressive, you know. But you know, you asked what a fan can do to help, and I said, you know, a lot of fans have, you know, donated and stuff. Well, here's the thing that I've done. Again, going with my old school brain, but kind of putting it in a new lens. When I write a song and we finish the song, and I upload it to the website, and it's free. It's free
Hmm.
for everybody to download. But we put a little link there. If you like the song, you know, please feel free to donate. That's the difference maker. Is that
Hmm.
those fans who actually donate, those fans who, you know, say, hey, I love Crüxshadows, I'm going to support it. Those are the people that keep us in business. And you know, those are the people that we are so grateful, you know, for, because it means they really truly love, you know, what we do. Now, I know most people that listen to Crüxshadows, like they're listening to Winterborn. They play Winterborn in the club. Okay. And this person's heard that song and they go out and dance to it. But they don't know us. They don't know. They know they like that song, or maybe it's Deception, or maybe, you know, whichever, you know, classic Crüxshadows song you wanna, you know, reference. But it's the people that support when we put those new songs out and we put them up on the website, and they go on the website weeks before they go into the streaming system, you know. And you know, we say, here it is, this is for the fans. And that's one of the biggest things. And maybe you know, we're talking about doing a tour in Europe, you know, maybe we do have to kind of do some kind of fundraiser stuff. But I always feel just I hate the idea of asking fans to, you know, to come out and support things. I mean, even with the, you know, putting the songs up online, it's free. There's no
Right.
paywall. There's no anything. If you want the music, if you love what we do, you can have it. And that's the truth.
I'm seeing a lot of very enthusiastic support, by the way, of the Christmas album, also talking about Astromythology. People are giving a lot of love to just how amazing the album was. And yes, and agreed with no filler songs at all. Amazing from start to finish.
Mythology,
Um,
I love that album. I love it so
Yeah.
much. I cannot express. I mean, there's highlights from Crüxshadows over the years, and you could argue, oh, well, this song is better, than this song, but as a, cohesive group of songs, that I like I say, I love Astromythology. I was able to do everything I wanted to do. So,
Mm.
I don't know what to say, and it's still, we still push Astromythology. When I put the album together, so I had the U.S. rights to Astromythology, and we had another company had the rights in Europe. So we were still independent in America and not, over in Europe. But the thing is, when we put the album together, usually the European editions are so much more fancy than the American editions, and so people get imports, to have the fancier. Oh no, the American version was the one, because we spared no expense, and we put everything together the way I really wanted it to be.
Mm. I really love that you come from a background of both visual and musical art, and so you have that ability to merge a whole vision together.
Well, thank you for noticing that. I have a degree in art. I studied music at Florida State, and I also studied art. I mean, I studied a number of things. Film and animation, and traditional studio art. I studied some composition and violin and what have you. Um, but I'm also a visual artist. A lot of the cover art, I have done. um and you know I do my own visual art on the side. I have a couple of projects outside of Crüxshadows that I do. um I have a writing project called After All, and this is something that I've been working on for many, many years. Um, Brent Lingle and myself have, co-authored this massive world called After All, and
Mm,
After All follows this 17-year-old girl who wakes up dead. Um,
mm,
she dies, and literally, it is her. Um, Adventure, her quest, um, her passage through the afterworld, and it's allowed me to bring, all of my interests in mythology and a lot of the um, the lore and mythology of Crüxshadows, because we have a lot of that built into, stuff that we do, but bring all of that together into this, project called After All. And the the thing is that I was able to do a lot of the art, for After All. Um, there's some, you know, uh, other artists as well. Dominic Kennedy and Julia Mosler also worked with me on the art for that. Um, and then, Brent and I did the writing. Um, but I was able to bring together more of my ideas. And then the last single that Crüxshadows put out, A Dream Before Dying, is literally about Reddy, who's the main character in After All. That's why the line is "Ready, are you ready?" It's Red,
mm.
the girl's name. And I think I have right here. Yeah. So you can see, like, this is After All.
Ah, oh
and
my gosh.
and so it's a book that's put together with, like, it's both prose. I see, like, right here in the front. So it's After All, right? And it has, where do you turn for inspiration in the darkest edge of night? How can you hope to find your purpose if you leave it all behind? Helios, the
Mm.
shadows. So I've been able to, take all of my, and I did the fonts. Like, I made the fonts.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I designed my own fonts to use in the thing, and it tells this story. So this is just a chapter of After All, and the things that are happening, but I did a bunch of the art in here, and a couple of the other artists. You can see these are all the people that worked on it. Let's see if you can see it. Maybe I'll show you that. And there's Brent,
Wow.
me, and there's Julia, there's Dominique. But and then I basically operated as the editor, and I put the whole thing together. And I've been very fortunate because people who are supporters of Crüxshadows have also been willing to support After All. So I have this plan, and what we're thinking of doing, so very strongly thinking looks like it's largely going to happen, is we're going to take a chapter by chapter approach to After All, and we're going to podcast it. So, maybe once a month, maybe we do it a little bit more than that, once every 3 weeks, but I'm really thinking, somewhere in the once a month zone is probably the safest in terms of not getting ahead of ourselves and ending up like Game of Thrones, where you overtake the actual story. So I'm just making things up as I go along. But yeah, I think that we could do a once a month sort of podcast and give you a complete chapter of the story, and once we get to a certain number of chapters, then put that out as printed material. And I think that's the kind of thing that I feel like, okay, we can convince people to support that and to subscribe to things, and there's a lot of angles there. So that's one thing that I've been doing. After All, I think you can see also here, this is a Virgin cover of the same. Let me see that, and I did the art on that.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
that is stunning, absolutely stunning.
It's fun. That's the character right there, ready.
Wow.
But and so when we did a dream before dying, let me see, bring this up. Okay, you see. Oh, let me get up things to it. All right, so you see this art right here? My daughter did that. That's the cover art. That's the cover art from the single, and I had done the cover art, and it was quite good. I did a great job, and then my daughter's like, "Oh, well, let me try one." And 15 minutes later, I'm like, my daughter just stole the cover from me. And I can't not put this up. This is people are like, "Oh, well, this one's good, but this one's really good." I'm like, "Oh my God." Yeah. So she got the cover, and this bunny rabbit is actually a character from After All. It's a stuffed animal that becomes kind of a character in the whole thing. And I have like all these grand ideas. I'd like to maybe have it eventually made into an anime. I'd like to release it in chapters as what they call light novels, maybe with some illustrations, kind of similar to what I did before, but a little bit different format than that. But and then Brent, my writing partner, he owns a comic book company. So we're like, well, why not, convert it into, a comic book as well. So all kinds of ideas. And I really like the idea of going to an anime too, because I really care about the project, and I want it to not get all, I mean, you live in LA, right? Get changed by all the people in LA, who are just make it into whatever they want to make it into. It's like, oh, we need a story to make the story that we want to tell. But I want to tell the story I want to tell. And I think that's the thing, the music too. I want to, I want to have control. I release things as singles, so that I can, curate what you're hearing from us, as opposed to, some kind of luck of the draw. There's one other thing that I've actually been working on here, I think. Yeah, I do. I have some. So there is a comic book company, or not a comic book, a comic book shop, right? Gotham City Limit, here in Florida, and I created a character for you know for the comic book. So these are prints that we made, and the owner of the shop and I came up with the idea for it and all this stuff. So we signed these, and they were a thing. Let's see if there's any more. Here's some other ones you can see. You know,
Oh
this
my
is Kitsu
gosh.
Komore, the sky fox.
Wow.
And he's kind of a fox in a bat suit, and kind of a cool character. There's some other ones here. This is a nod to the Frank Miller famous sort of cover there of Batman. And then I did another Frank Miller cover where it like the Wolverine doing the whole come here kind of thing. And so I do a lot of things. I do art, I do music. For better or for worse, I directed a couple of our videos. Like I say, some of them better than others. I co-directed as well. But I love doing creative things. I love taking something out of my mind and making something real and in the world. And I guess music is the thing that has allowed me to reach the most people. It's the thing that I've been most successful at, and kind of doing that whole thing. So anyway, yeah, I just railroaded and ran off with your question. I'm sorry.
No, this not at all. It's amazing. I love that. It sounds to me like there's so many seeds that are blooming in your creative worlds. Like, I love that it's all merging and coming together. And like your last single was in tandem with the story. So I'm just I'm curious if there'll be more songs that are part of the soundtrack of the story.
Yeah, I think that that's a cool thing. I really liked how it came across. I liked the song a lot, and I think it's a catchy song. But oh my goodness, the lyrics I wrote for that, I have to say, like everything in there means like 15 different things. They're
Hmm.
references inside of references, and I've loved doing that since time immemorial. I'm all about putting secret messages and stuff. I remember back when I was a kid, I got this album from Arcadia called "So Red the Rose." And do you know who Arcadia is, or
I
no?
don't.
Okay, so Duran Duran was a band, and they had a side project they did called Arcadia, and Arcadia was very, very dark. Um, and really, it's sort of how I kind of started off, in the direction of dark music and that whole kind of thing. Arcadia was really the jumping off point for me. Arcadia, maybe Depeche Mode, I guess The Cure, that's that kind of thing. But the thing about the Arcadia album was you took the album out and it had all these numbers written all over the place. I'm like, what are these numbers? What do they mean? And I noticed, oh, well, the numbers, they're all even numbers. There's no odd numbers in any of these things. And I figured out that the numbers coincided with letters. And there were all kinds of secret messages written all over this album. And when it spun, you could read it forwards or backwards. The messages could be read in either direction. It was brilliant. And so I was like, wow, I love that. I spent hours figuring out what everything meant, diving into this little secret, this little Easter egg here or there. And so, I really wanted to do that when I was creating, music as well. But then, the whole paradigm changes and no one's printing albums anymore. It's everything's digital. And
Hmm.
so stuff like that goes away. But I think there are other places to put that enthusiasm into.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Smashing Pandora was asking, will After All be available to buy online?
Okay, so here's sort of the plan with how that's going to work. We're going to get that podcast going, and I think that podcast becomes something that anchors everything. You know, that we can really start to build a fan base for After All. They're such great characters, and in writing it, I find myself, like becoming in my head, each of these characters, and I put so much of myself into them. Um, and I know I'm going aside. I'll come back to the actual question.
Tangents are welcome.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the thing is with the characters in After All, and I have to say, there is of course an overarching story, right? But a lot of times, I think that what has made things successful for Brent and I is getting into the head of the characters, right? And instead of deciding what characters will do, letting characters do what characters want to do. Let characters do what they're motivated to do, not what authors want the characters to do. And I find that the story becomes so much more compelling. And strangely enough, the cliches start to fall away because we've created cliches about how people act, but it's not how somebody actually acts. And I think once you get yourself into the head of that particular character, then you start reacting to the scenarios, to the stimulus that's coming from the environment that's in the book, and you tell a unique story. So is After All going to be available? Well, we're going to get this podcast going, and then we will, as we get to X number of chapters with the podcast, then we're thinking, okay, then we go a light novel. So you go 4, 5, 6, I don't know, chapters of audio podcasts. Then you put that out in written form. And then you do it again, and you do it again. And I think that's a good template for kind of inventing our own success. I think that could be really cool. And with the Kitsu Komore Sky Fox stuff, I am tentatively planning to actually draw a comic book around this little fox character. And I've got Ben Kingsbury from Gotham City Limit in Jacksonville, Florida, really behind the project, and he's got all kinds of ideas that he wants to make happen. And so we'll see what happens with that. But After All should be available. Like I say, this version of After All, the ones that I was showing you, these, they're a chapter that's actually called Into the Void. Okay. And I took it out of the middle of the book, but I did that because it sort of stood alone. Everything that happened in the chapter, there's stuff you don't understand what's going on, but you can understand enough of what's going on to hear a cohesive story from start to finish. And it really worked as a proof of concept, as a, look, this is a viable thing. And, we sold many hundreds of copies of these things, and, they're not cheap. We put a $20 price tag on them. And for, the variant covers that we only produced a handful of those, those sold for a lot of money. So, there is something that's available now. Usually those are only a direct sale item. Although I think that once the podcast becomes, a live thing, that we'll find a way to offer those, online, at least until we get to a point where we can do the light novels. And when the whole story is told, at least for the book, I think we will put together as one book. But this thing is a lot of pages already. So
Yeah. Oh, do you have the whole story mapped out in your head already?
The story is mapped in terms of the kind of the big players, but a lot of the nitty gritty of how they get there, I'm really leaving up to the characters themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
we will see some of the nitty gritty how it pans out, because sometimes when I'm writing, I really, I know where I was intending the story to go, but but I wouldn't do that if I was so and so. But Cassandra wouldn't say that. Cassandra's going to say this, but that opens up this whole, new, and I jump down the rabbit hole. And,
Mm-hmm.
to a large extent, all of that has to be cleaned up, but that's why it's taken years and years and years. And the fact that you know, I have a daughter, and I have, Crüxshadows, and I have a whole lot of things I'm trying to, keep on the rails. But yeah, I think that um, we should be seeing something happening with After All very, very soon.
That's exciting. Very,
and
very
and and,
cool.
and hopefully more Crüxshadows music to go with it. Like in the beginnings of the chapters, this was Brent's idea, but we put a excerpt from a Crüxshadows song, and that sort of has a kind of references something that's going on in the chapter. I think that was kind of a cool little touch. And there's lots of things. We don't follow the rules, and I'm not
Mhm.
about following the rules. I want to do what I want to do. So.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's what makes you, the artist that you are, and,
Makes me
you
something.
know,
I
it's.
don't know. I don't know what, but it makes me something.
There's a lot of people that are very, very excited, by the way, about After All. I see somebody here that says I can voice act on it. Yeah, I was curious about that. If you were going to be reading that all yourself,
But
or.
I was planning on doing the reading, of
Mhm.
it. Some people have told me that I have, a nice voice, and you know, that's might be the case. So I figure, I could do that. Um, and but the possibilities with After All are just, unlimited. The truth is, it's a really good story. The characters are really compelling. You ever watch a movie or something, and you're kind of like, well, this is a cool movie, or you read a book, this is a cool book, but the main character, you're not sure you even like them.
Mhm.
You're like,
Yeah.
would I even like this person if I met them in real life? And I think the thing about After All is these characters. Like, I love these characters. I genuinely care about these characters. I care about what happens to them. I care about the difficulties they have to come into contact with. It's like they've become real to me. Like they're
Mm.
living, breathing entities. And yeah, that's that's the thing. So,
I think my favorite stories are the ones where you do fall in love with the characters, like whether it's a written medium or visual medium. It's like
mhm,
when you fall in love with the characters, I get invested at
mhm.
that point. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that too, because like for me, when I write, I almost think of it like a movie. You know what I mean? And
Mm,
I
yeah.
think of it in that sort of context, like visually, and I like to uh, uh sort of you know the prose that I use is very, very poetic. I like to weave something that where the words sound nice when you hear them. I like to paint pictures with the words that I use. I like to create something. It's like I tell Brent all the time. I'm like, we're not following any standards for this, because we're not making a dime store novel. We're making Shakespeare. We're making
Hmm.
something that I want to live beyond me. I want to survive me, and maybe tell the world in 500 years that I was here.
Yeah. I think that's a really beautiful way to, um, gosh, I think about it when, as you were talking about it, as like statues. Like you never know, maybe 1,000 years from now, you'll see like a piece of art in some form where you're like, gosh, there was a piece of art that was created by another human,
Mhm.
that I can still connect with.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it moves you, I mean, like, the thing is that we see it in the music industry. We see, songs that touch us, or songs that move us, and some of the people that have written those songs, have died, and we, David Bowie, for example, wrote, all of these great songs, and people are still like, being moved by them, after he's dead and gone. And so he's made a mark that lasts on the world, and that's fantastic. I do wonder if our modern music will survive.
Mm,
I don't know if it will. And
yeah.
there's no track record. We can look at, classical music, and we can say, oh, well, these notes that were written down by this person or that person. But, we're largely a recorded medium, music is now. And will music last? Will it last 200 years? Will it last, 500 years? You think, okay, we'll jump into I don't know how many years into the future Star Trek is supposed to be. It's like, what, 200 or 300 years, something like that. Um, would Captain Kirk be listening to Crüxshadows? I don't know. I don't know. But at the same time, there are other things. I think, that do have a track record, and we do have. I mean, my daughter, will, reads Herodotus, and I don't know when that was written, but it's before Jesus Christ was around.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, there are people that have written things and it survives. So that's kind of a cool, thing, that you can affect people's lives, or you can, affect, the world, long after your body's just dust.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely, I think that, and like you were talking about composers and their work, there's certain melodies that are just so familiar, right? Like that, you think of certain Beethoven pieces or certain Mozart like lines where you're like, oh yeah, I know that, and everybody knows that familiar line, "Happy Birthday," for instance. And so yeah, you do wonder, at least with music, like what will get leaked over, yeah, through the times.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Um, Rachel Bornander
okay.
says, after Into the Void, I've been waiting for more. It's so good. And your imagery is amazing in your lyrics. Not surprising it would carry over into your writing.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things, I consider myself, as a lyric writer, to be, kind of, a poet. Um, but, poetry is really not a thing anymore. I mean, it's something that
Mm,
people do for a hobby, maybe, or to amuse themselves. I know that there are some poets that, get their works, printed, and maybe a few people buy some copies, but it's not, poetry isn't flying off the shelves, and, like that. So the modern, way to move poetry is really through, the medium of music.
mm-hmm.
Music allows you to, write your poetry in a way that can be consumed by the masses, and that is a major, component to my interest in music, is being able to write those words, and write things that matter to people. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have told me over the course of my career, hey, this song was there for me at a really dark time, or this song
Mm-hmm.
helped me through this situation.
Yeah.
Uh, Speaking of Los Angeles, there was a show that, I showed up, to play, and we're getting out and unloading, and there's this big, huge guy, muscly man, and he was waiting for me, and he told me that, our music, saved his life, and that he was, had gone so far as to put a gun in his mouth, um,
Mm,
pull the trigger, he said he was listening. He said he picked up a bunch of CDs that he thought would be the most depressing CDs he could get. And he was going to go commit suicide. And he put these CDs in the CD changer, and he said he had a gun in his mouth, and he was going to pull the trigger. And then one of my songs popped on, and he started thinking about his life and what it meant. And and in that precipice that he was on. Hold on a second. What? Hello? Okay. In that particular moment, he changed his mind and reconsidered his future and his thoughts, and so he came to tell me that I saved his life. Well, I didn't save his life. I wasn't there. I didn't have anything to do with it. But what I did do is I put something out into the world that was able to push a button in his mind that allowed him to save his own life. All the kinetic energy came from him, so, being a musician, being somebody who gets to do this for a living, I have had, the profound fortune of being able to affect people's lives. And I love that.
Yeah. It's powerful. I mean, even in the chat earlier when you were talking about Astromythology, the Mad Hatter 622 shared the first time I heard Astronauts was around the same time I had just lost my grandfather, and that song brought me to tears. I think that's really beautiful. It's really beautiful.
That's really nice to hear. Yeah. I love the song Astronauts. It's actually one of my favorite songs that I've written. Doesn't get a whole lot of love just in general. It's the last song on the disc, and it's a down-tempoed song. But for me, it's a really strong emotional song, and I love the end of it. I know this is not the end, and it ends on that end, kind of thing, and it leaves you, a little bit jarred, but at the same time, they told you it's not the end. You know what I mean? I don't know, like, a lot of these songs too have real world tie-ins for me as well. And, I wrote, some of those songs, with, particular elements of my life and maybe elements of people that I've known and loved, incorporated into the whole idea of it.
Yeah, it's like a weaving of souls, if you will, like a weaving of energy and experience. And I love that there's a whole tapestry around it. And as you were sharing, just the fact that it can connect with people in such a profound way, in a way that they need to hear it,
Well, that's exactly it. And I always loved music that left space for your own experience to be inserted into the story. Because what happens with that is that when you're having a particular experience, and sometimes it's a good experience, but sometimes it's a bad experience, and you hear a song that speaks to you, and you are able to imagine in the elements of your own life, it becomes part of the experience. And I think when it's a negative thing, it lets you know that you're not alone. It lets you know that you're not, all by yourself in this feeling that you have. I often say that music is kind of like wolves howling.
Yeah.
When a dog or a wolf, howls, and then you notice, oh, there's another one howling. Now there's another one howling. That note that they howl says, oh, I'm not alone. My pack is here. Or, there's others like me, out there. And there's this kind of dialogue that takes place in it. And I think, music does that for people as well. When we hear something that resonates with us, we are able to experience things maybe stronger. Maybe it empowers us a little. Maybe it does the same for the wolves. It empowers them. But I think music empowers us. It brings us into a kind of communion with others who are in the same place we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Emotionally, what I'm
Yeah,
talking about, but I
yeah,
get locally
yeah.
too.
No, it's so amazing because gosh, there's a few more people that have shared. Um, Princess Chimera said, I felt suicidal during my middle school years due to bullying. Citadel, Absurd Minds remix basically pulled me out of it. Met the band 2 years later, and I'm still here.
Yay!
It's powerful.
Thank you for
That's
staying
awesome.
with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the thing is that, all of these experiences, whether it's, your grandfather dying or being bullied at school or, any number of things. I think one of the things with Crüxshadows music, and I have done my best to stay away from making music that is hollow, okay,
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
is, doesn't have any meat to it, but also staying away from, music that gets caught up in, politics or, whatever's going on right now. I really have wanted to write music and make music that has universal truth, that speaks to people on a real, personal, sincere level, and has the ability or the potential to do that in 5 years or 25 years or maybe 125 years, because it's talking about things that are part of the human condition, part of
Yeah.
what makes us us. So, I am so grateful to, the fans who have allowed Crüxshadows to be part of their life, part of their, this whole thing we call life is, this amazing journey where, you just think about it, you step back from yourself and you think about how bizarre the idea of being alive is, and how precious that is. And I'm so grateful for our fans who have, taken the minutes out of their lives to, um, bring Crüxshadows into it and make, us part of, who they are and their experience.
Yeah. I think it's like, gosh, it's like the fact that you have the ability to channel um, messages, experiences from the ethers and direct it into a way that's like almost like a radio tower, you know?
Mhm.
I think that's amazing.
Well,
I think you have to be willing to be a conduit, you know?
yeah. Well, anyway, so that's the thing. But we're playing shows in Texas, and people should come.
Yeah, yes. Yes. I see Naika in the chat, by the way, which is
Mm.
always wonderful. And we're really excited about it. I know um, from your sharing about how difficult it is to make live shows happen, that's really special.
Mhm.
So anyone that's able to get out there absolutely should go out and support and experience what a live Crüxshadows show is like. I think it's so unique that you bring like the violin into your live show. That's so cool. You just don't see that often.
Too violent. Well,
Yeah.
I started um, playing violin very late. And so I was the original violin player for Crüxshadows. So if you listen to the old Crüxshadows recordings, that's why the violin is so awful, because it's me. But I'm not that terrible, but I'm not. I mean, anyway, the thing is that playing violin at Florida State, I was without a doubt the worst violin player in the School of Music. Not even close. Okay. Um, and one of the things I figured out, well, wait a second, I am never going to be a great violinist. And a lot of violinists who decide they're never going to be a great violinist become violists. And I'm like, I'm never going to be a great violist. There's a few violists who play viola because they love viola, but there's a, and I'm sure they hate the violinists that jump over to their instrument to like that. But anyway, a lot of violinists go to viola, and I wasn't really interested in going to a viola. But I thought, wait a second, there's not a whole lot of people playing electric violin. And so I designed and built my own electric violin, and I played it on stage, and I do my singing, and then, we'd have a breakdown, and I pulled the violin off my back, and I, had it strapped onto my back, and I play the, the little part or whatever. And then at some point that became too much, and I recruited a violin player from Florida State who was not the worst violin player at, and then it sort of took off from there. And now I have two very talented violin players, Johanna Moresco and David Wood, who have been with me for a long time. So
I love that. It's so cool. I'm seeing people in the chat saying the violin is kind of what drew me in, and it's such a beautiful instrument. I just love that you incorporate that live.
violin.
Is this a
Violin. You can see the violin. Violin. Yay, violin.
Oh, there it is. Is that the first one that you put together?
No, that's a Yamaha. Which,
Okay.
yeah, I like the Yamahas. And that's what we use on stage. Johanna has a Yamaha that we had custom made for her, or customized rather. And then Dave also plays a very expensive, fancy Yamaha. But no, I created my own, and as I was in the art school, I had access to the wood shop, so I went into the wood shop and started figuring out how to make a violin. And my first mistake was that I made it out of oak, and that's a heavy wood for so, and I had to go back and adjust it and hollow things out to to get some of the weight off of it. But we used my electric violins that I created for the first. I mean, I used it when I played on stage, and then Rachel, who was my first violin player after me, he used two of the designs that I did, and then we went to the Yamahas and she used those. So.
That's so cool. When you're creating the songs, do you hear the vocals and the violin kind of interwoven at the same time, or do you kind of play around with layering it?
No. Actually, I don't write from the top down. I write from the bottom up. So a lot of songwriters, oh, well, I'm going to start with some lyrics, then I'm going to come up with a melody, then I'm going to figure out how to do the melody. That is not how I write music. Never has been. I start with I have occasionally written songs that way, but you're probably talking 5 or 6 of the 300 some odd songs that I've written. I'm not counting, so anybody that actually knows, please don't, Anyway, so the thing is the way I typically write music is I start with a concept. I want to write a song about, I don't know, insert simple concept, heartbreak, love, Christmas, I don't know. You come up with a simple concept, and then I sit down and I will decide what I want the tempo of that song to be. The tempo largely, determines the mood of the song. So if I'm writing a slower song, I start with a lower tempo, and I'm writing something for the dance floor. That's usually a fast or moderate tempo. So I'll start with the tempo, and I basically sit down and I program and plan the drums, and that's the first thing I do. Then I start working on the bass. The bass gives you the mood, the feel, the really kind of on a visceral level, gives you the guts of the song, so to speak. So I do that. Then I start working with various keyboard lines and guitar or violin or whatever on top of that, and I build all the way up, and I'll build a song, and I leave. This is where the vocals are going. This is where the in the verse, this is where the vocals are going, and the chorus, all this kind of stuff. But I create that, and then I sit down and I come up with the vocal melody. Okay, the vocal melody comes next. So a lot of times I'll just use nonsense words, yada do do da 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 do da 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 da, some this nonsense. And then once I get a really good melody, I tend to work in counterpoint. I'm not a chord-driven person, so a lot of artists write based on chord structures. Not me. That's not how I work. I work based on interwoven themes or lines where everything is working in counterpoint. So if I were a classical musician, I'd be somewhere between the Baroque and early Mozart. It's all about counterpoint for me. And I have a really good mind for counterpoint. I can hear melodies layered on top of melodies. That gives Crüxshadows a unique flavor, compared to a lot of other music, because every line has got its own melody, and it might be a simple melody. It might be like da 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 da, something like that, but it's still a melody. And so I'll build the counterpoint to all those melodies against each other. And then when I've got all that, and I've got how I pretty much want the vocals, to go in terms of their melody, I will then start working words to it, and it gives me the perspective of knowing the song that I'm trying to speak for. So I'm giving words to this living entity that is a song, rather than building a song around some words I came up with. And since I'm the person that started, with all of these things and built it up, I feel like I'm able to give some real life to that. So I don't know if that made any sense, but that is literally the reverse of most other artists, as far as I'm aware. Most other artists discuss such things.
It actually really makes sense. Like especially with your background in violin, like I love the fact that when I'm hearing the music back in my head, I'm like, yeah, I could see how the counterpoint is present, and every line then makes sense in its own way.
Well, it's funny because in Austria, one of our fans, told me they were actually studying our music because of the effects that it had on autistic kids. And I think it's something about, because instead of stacked chords, what you have is this counterpoint. So in order to listen to it, to really listen to it, your brain is actually listening to several different things going on simultaneously. And they were showing, years ago, this was a long time ago, but they were showing that some of these autistic kids were able to I don't know, to operate in a more normal range when they listened to Crüxshadows music, because it spoke to them on several different levels. I always thought that was really interesting. I mean, I haven't looked at the science involved with it, so I'm not speaking to any of that, but there was a whole lot of interest in Crüxshadows a number of years ago, because of that, because of the stacked counter, or because of the counterpoint as opposed to the stacked chords.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense, especially with the patterns. And it's really, really cool. Gosh, Rogue, I really appreciate you taking the time to share
No problem.
so many beautiful perspectives.
Are there any other questions? I mean, does anybody have anything they want to know or care about? Because I don't want to. If people are asking things, I don't want to be ignoring anything. So
no, not at all.
The rapid fire. So I'll just try not to be such a flibber to gibbet.
Okay, so we have a question from Kevin USPSA 9353. well, do you miss the longer form storytelling that albums allowed you to do?
Yes, but
Mm.
I am doing some of that in other things like After All, and so yes, I do miss it, and um, if I were to do another album, I would certainly go that direction. At least an album that I'm building from the ground up, I would go that direction.
Yeah.
I think because I've been releasing these songs as singles, I may take all these singles and put them onto a single collection, kind of thing as an album.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
I do miss the concept album. That's fair.
Mm. A question from Icarus Angelus is After All the podcast going to be an audio drama?
Um, we have talked about that, but no, it's not going to be it's going to be a narrated, read. I would read it. Um, as far as what kind of sound or things going on, I haven't really um, you know figured out exactly how that's going to work. But at this stage, it is going to be narrated. I do think it would be really cool to do a audio drama, theater of the mind kind of thing with it as well as a separate thing. But
Mm.
to start things going, I think that it's just going to be narrated. We can only put so much production into it, and especially without having, a large, far-reaching popularity with the project.
For now.
For now, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, for now. Yes,
Once
yes.
it becomes the thing that eclipses Harry Potter, then we will then we will of course do an audio drama and maybe even a drama.
Oh, and you mentioned an anime too
Yeah.
as
Well,
well.
I really love the idea of anime because I want to keep the IP true to its original form.
Mm.
I mean, how many times have you read a book to go to the movie to find out it wasn't anything like what you expected? I don't want that to be.
Gosh, yeah, so true. Yeah, and it's amazing when it does line up, but
Hmm?
yes, absolutely.
I think what that
Uh,
I haven't read the book, but one of my friends was telling me, he had read the book, but we were comparing notes between the book and the movie for Project Hail Mary, and
yeah.
it seems, at least talking to him, it seemed like that followed the book really really well. But I love when a book and a movie become complementary. I think that's probably
Mm,
what Harry Potter movie and books had going that was so strong, is that people were reading the books and watching the movies, and they're reading the books and seeing the actors from the movies in their head doing these things. I think that there's something special about that. I don't know.
yeah, I'm also a fan of Lord of the Rings, so and I did see and read Project Hail Mary, and I really felt like it did
Did you feel like it was
absolutely.
the same for
I
both?
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
And I
think he's
know
such
there
an
was
amazing writer.
it's a much longer book than it is a movie, but
Hmm.
the thing is, it looks like they at least tried very hard to keep them on the same path. So,
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
Questions. What else we got?
Okay, okay, yes, yes. This is from Smashing Pandora. Do you think you might ever revive some of your old tour or album T-shirts? Yes.
If there was a demand for it, sure. Some of those things would have to be, reverse engineered, because I wouldn't even know where to look for the art files. But it's possible, and if there was a big, demand for anything, we certainly could put something like that into our online store, because that's a print on demand, based thing. Um, so yeah, sort of, maybe.
Nice.
Does she have a particular thing she's looking for?
Oh, good question. We'll pose that to her while we go to the next question. Yes, especially if there's something specific. And Reiben Card missed the part about where he can buy After All.
Okay.
So he was like, I missed the whole thing somehow. He's
Okay,
like,
so
where can I buy After All?
After All is currently only available as a direct sale thing. So
Yeah.
Brent, who is my writing partner, typically has After All with him when he goes to various conventions and stuff. And we would have to check his website to find out more about that. But once we get the podcast going, we will make After All the book available through ordering and stuff like that. So that's probably what you're going to have to wait for. Or you can come see Crüxshadows, because we typically bring them with us in case there is anyone. We don't sell a whole lot, but we sell a handful of them at any given show that we might do. We typically have them. We play Dragon Con every year, and we typically have them at Dragon Con. So that's a thing. But yeah, once the podcast gets going, I think that that's when you'll start being able to find things available.
I know you have a really beautiful merch setup. Will you bring these things with you to the shows in Texas?
Yeah. So we're not going to bring our Crüxshadows Superstore to Texas, but we're going to bring a lot of stuff. So hopefully we have something for everyone. I don't know that we're going to bring all 2,000 different T-shirt designs that seems like we have. Because somebody has to work all that, and they have to be able to manage it and set it up and get things going like that. But we'll bring as much as we possibly can, within reason.
A question from Dusty Chalk. My always question: writing on the road, yay, nay, or it's complicated?
Writing on the road. In the old days, I absolutely wrote on the road. Let's see, the Tears single, that whole thing was produced, recorded, and put together while on the road. There's been a couple songs like that, but mostly not. And I think the reason for that is because of the way that I write does not lend itself towards writing on the road particularly. So I told you I write from the bottom up as opposed to the top down. Yeah, I want to be in the studio. I want to feel the bass. I want to. I need that visceral, cognitive, like, feedback, and yeah. So I don't do much writing of music on the road. Writing. So After All stuff, maybe.
Yeah. I love that you describe the visceral feeling as well, because I imagine that's actually what brings the feeling of dance to your music. Like, I know you have dancers on stage, but people love to dance to your music. So I imagine from the bottom up, that's why it's like, oh, the energy of dancing, I feel it.
But for me, that was a major part. I used to love to. I mean, when I was a kid, I went to these clubs. We used to have them. I don't know if they have these things anymore, and it's really too bad if they don't. But we had these all ages clubs, and the all ages clubs were always goth, industrial, alternative clubs, and you'd go and dance. And so I wanted to write music that kids like myself wanted to dance to, so yeah, that's a lot of the thing. But when writing the music, I want to feel it, I want to experience it, I want to know what it's going to be like. But I will say this, and to anyone writing music or writing just written word or making art or anything like that, when you make something, right, and you have it in its finished state, and you're like, oh, this is so good, it's so good, oh my goodness, it's so good. once you go through the process of putting it out there, okay, it loses layers. It loses some of that spectacularness. I tell you honestly, you have to make it 10 times better than you want it to be so that it's as good as you wanted it to be when it gets out there, because it's like the act of putting it out runs it through, all kinds of things that just make it not nearly as good as it felt like it was. You have to really push yourself to the max to get to kind of ground zero.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Because, gosh, I mean, you think about it like, from the conception into the studio out into, even if it's streaming, right? It does go through many layers.
It goes through many layers, and the thing is that sometimes you feel like it sounds amazing and it sounds really good, but I challenge anyone to make something that you think is wonderful and then put it in front of people and watch their reactions.
Mm,
You watch their reactions and you start going, oh, they're not getting this, and oh, they're not getting that, and I should have made this stronger, or I should have brought this out more, or they're not hearing this, or they're not hearing that, and it's a difficult thing making art, making music, making written word, anything. When you put yourself out there, not only are you putting your soul out there, for people to say, oh, this guy sucks, he's so awful. One of my favorite comments of all time was this person online. They said, this band would be so good if they just got rid of that singer. I'm like, but the thing is that I mean, that's his opinion. Maybe they would be. But I think the thing is that people can be brutal. People say the meanest, nastiest, things. They say things that, about you. They say things towards you. Even normal, well-meaning. Oh, this band is terrible, or this singer is a complete this. Well, I'm a human being, and that didn't feel good.
yeah.
But I think that on some level, people feel like they own you, like you are a product that they have some ownership in, or that just by being out, you are like a non-player character or something, and they don't Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is a real person.
Yeah.
Lady Gaga has feelings. Lady Gaga does, she takes showers and uses the bathroom just like everybody else. You know what I mean? Like the fact of the matter is, people put her into a particular place, and they feel like they can say anything they want about her, and that's unfortunate that people feel that way, and I think they do the same thing, obviously to a lesser extent, because I'm not Lady Gaga, but they do the same thing, to some extent with me. And,
Yeah.
I read things that people write, and sometimes people write the loveliest, most beautiful things. And sometimes people write nasty, scathing, things. My daughter was showing me, some people were talking about me, and in the comments, some guy says, oh yeah, this guy, I saw him eating at Applebee's and he scarfed down, like, three, full-size meals and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I've never eaten at Applebee's in my life. But that doesn't keep somebody from saying that, and
Right.
it also doesn't prevent people from believing it. And
Yeah.
any of the people that are watching this thing, I'm sure you've run into someone that says something nasty about you. Now imagine if that is happening, but they're saying it to thousands and thousands of people, and it catches fire because you're somebody that you know has made something. Yeah, it's not exactly fun, but I guess it's the price of doing business.
Well, it's also the price, I suppose, of having the courage to share your art in the world.
Mhm.
And I everyone, I suppose, has their reasons for making those kinds of comments, but I feel like it's like ultimately, um, if you're fortunate, like you get to connect with people that really get it. And then in that sense, it's like they lift you up.
Yeah, but you know what? You've hit the nail on the head, because the thing is, for all the people that say the terrible, nasty things, right? You also have the people that say, "Yeah, you saved my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, this means more to me than anything." Or, you were the soundtrack to my adolescence, or whatever the case may be. My family member died, and I would not have made it through, without this song. That is the stuff that makes up the ground for the people that accuse you of horrible things, or say that you're a terrible person, or I don't know. I've read everything under the sun about myself, and I'm like, wow, I'd love to meet me someday, because really interesting. So
Oh my gosh, if only that would be such an interesting story, wouldn't it? If that entity existed of your alter ego that was created online.
there's a Khalil Gibran. Khalil Gibran's one of my favorite writers. But Khalil Gibran wrote something, and I'll just the Reader's Digest of it is, every day at the same time of year, the Jesus of religion and the Jesus of history got together and had a discussion over a meal. At the end, they would say, "Brother, I love you dearly, but I fear we shall never agree on anything." And I thought, that's very interesting, because there is, to every person, what people believe of them, and what is actually true of them, and those things don't always align. We live in this strange world where we believe that consensus makes truth.
Mm,
Where, oh, if enough people believe this is the situation, then that's the situation. But
yeah,
our physics is not dependent upon our perspective. And I don't
yeah.
know.
I've heard this. I forget where I heard it, but it was sort of like um, three blind men describing an elephant, and one of them is on the trunk end, one of them is on the tail end, one of them is in the middle, and they all have different descriptions. Um, yeah. So I think until you actually experience the person or the thing yourself,
Yeah, well, I
you
mean,
know.
but even when you do that, like,
Yeah.
every car crash, that people watch happened in a different way. Every football game, that two different rooting sides, get to describe the play that happened, have an entirely different perspective on what happened. And so you can
Yeah.
have the same set of circumstances, and based upon your biases, based upon your perspective, based upon your point of view, the truth is that we see things in different ways. Cultural ideas, religious ideas, political ideas. These things all affect the way we interpret the world around us. And that's one of the things I think, if people were just willing to, maybe cut each other a little bit more slack. You know,
Mm,
I just I don't understand the sort of tribal mindset that people seem to have. Think for yourself, and be open to other people's perspective.
yeah. Yeah. Um, we had some more questions.
Okay, let's go.
Um, Princess Chimera said if the Crüxshadows had their own fragrance, would it smell like?
Um, Vanilla and cinnamon and nutmeg and amber, and
Mm,
let me think here. I don't know. That's mostly right, I think.
that sounds lovely. I was like, that smells lovely. That sounds like a lovely smell. Um, so, Nymphe Dreams says, "What channel and platform will After All be on? Do you know
Don't know
yet?"
yet. Have not decided. That's actually
Okay.
one of the things holding us up is because there's pros and cons to everything. And
Yeah.
once you make a decision, you're in it for the long haul that way. So, because changing over becomes difficult.
True. Yeah. Definitely.
think,
And
I think
gosh,
we
it's
will
like,
try and make multiple platforms, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
let's see.
Oh, by the way, for After All,
Oh, oh,
afterall.quest. So
afterall.quest.
AFTERALL.QUEST. So not a whole lot there, but there's about 5 pages of some background information and a number of drawings that I did of some of the characters.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I can't wait to go down the rabbit hole. Let's see. This is Jack Radical 8745. Hi, Rogue. Annabelle Lecter here. Is there anything more that we, the fans, can do that we're not? Since streaming has made things so complicated for artists, we want to do all we can for your art.
Um, Honestly, this is like preaching to the choir because I know this particular person, and she's been very, very supportive of us. But yeah, I think that supporting the songs, supporting the shows, supporting the stuff when we put it out, and maybe we do change up. I think that's where I was going with this, and start looking at things like Patreons or some of that kind of stuff. But I'm just so old fashioned. I just want to make stuff and sell it to you instead of or give it to you because that's kind of how it works. But I don't I hate the idea of like, oh, here, give me money and I'll trading, I guess, money for access is what it seems like,
Mm,
times. It just doesn't make sense to me. Um, I don't know. But yeah,
yeah.
support everything and really, spread the word and play people the songs and go to the clubs and ask the DJ to play the song. And when they go, oh, what? I don't know that song. You go, oh, great. Well, you can download it for free right here.
That's awesome. And I know,
You have
I
internet.
believe you have, I do believe you also have your online store as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, yeah. We have an
Mm-hmm.
online store. We have you know, uh, you know, a bunch of different shirts and products and stuff like that. And to be honest, I really appreciate when people buy things in the online store. It really does help. But our markup is really small. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we're really doing to keep Crüxshadows' name out there on people's t-shirts, give them opportunity to buy t-shirts. But the markup for us is I think people might be a little shocked at how little money is made on each sale. Um, but uh, um, but it's important. It's
Mm-hmm.
important. Um, the but yeah, supporting all the stuff. And we do have the donate buttons on the website. If you go to any of the areas where the free songs are, we do take donations, and they help. And you might be buying groceries for me, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the fact of the matter is that um, that's a very appreciated thing that happens. And um, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have shows coming up, this week, and it's amazing to me when you think about how much goes into putting a show together and the history of all the things that have gone into making those shows, even the music itself and the rehearsals and
Exactly. Yeah, and
yeah.
I don't know if you saw online. I did this. This is, I don't think I've done this before. But for this show, I put up a song in rehearsal. We're
Hmm.
literally
Yeah.
playing in rehearsal. I think that might be something that people might be interested in. Maybe I should put that up more often. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it was it got I thought it got a pretty good response in terms of plays, and a day and a half it had 3,000 plays. So I'm like, that's not too shabby, especially because videos of length usually don't get a whole lot. So
Hmm.
I thought, oh, that's kind of a good sign. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially when you have like you get the snapshot of the show itself, but then to actually get an understanding of like, oh, this is what went into putting that show together, I think is
well,
amazing.
here's another like little insight, into Crüxshadows. I tell you what, we practice with lights and sound and the whole 9 yards. You know what I mean? Because I want my people in the dark trying to play an instrument, fumbling around, with lights in their eyes, and because that's what's going to be like on stage.
Yeah.
So, I used to tell, the band, you need to be able to play this stuff, blindfolded and hanging upside down from your toes, because I mean, all the things that go wrong on a stage is just, incomprehensible. Remember we were on tour. Bella Morte opened for us. This was many years ago, and they were jumping around on the stage, and the guitar player went through the stage, like right through the stage, and he kept playing guitar, but his head was sticking out of the stage because the boards had broken on the stage. It was an old stage, and the boards had broken, and they were jumping, like doing their thing.
Oh
And the
my
board
gosh.
broke, and he fell. But he's still playing, and they're, punk rock, let's go, and so they finished their song before they pulled him out of there. But the thing is that we followed them with a giant hole in the stage. I think we put a board over it, or something. I don't remember what we did. But the thing is that stuff happens that you're not expecting, and so we try and create a more stage-like environment when we practice. So that's something that we've done. And we bring the lights down, turn all the moving heads and whatever on, and literally perform in the studio, with you know lights and sound real loud, and I don't know how other bands do it, but that's how we do it.
Yeah, no, I saw the clip and it was thinking about I think I read that Prince would also do rehearsals like in full form, like he would go all out, with his dancing and his playing and his singing, and that's what he expected of his whole band as
Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't mind being the same company as Prince.
I do like think about though that you were talking about the donation, and I'm like, with your shows coming up, just putting some food for thought for people is that it also helps pay for the gas.
Mm.
So putting gas in the tank and helping to make things easier,
No, well,
for
I
the
mean, the
bands.
thing is, there's lots of expenses and so many
Yeah.
unforeseen expenses, and I mean, most of what I was talking about before is band related expenses, but from a personal standpoint, you know,
Yeah.
um, like I go out with my daughter, she's got to eat,
Hmm.
there's
Yeah.
you can't go, oh well, I'll just make you some mac and cheese tonight. It's like, okay, we got to find something that you can eat, and pay for it. There's a lot of stuff you would not expect, that goes into it, and um, it is what it is. And when we do one-off shows like this, because this is effectively what it is. It's two shows, but they're one-off shows. Um, it's not like a tour. You're not renting a
Hmm.
bus and you
Yeah.
basically have a home away from home. You're in a situation where you got to kind of figure out ways to do all the things. You got to find ways to pay the bills, and back home, and keep all that going, and at the same time investing money in the things that are necessary to make the shows happen.
Absolutely. It's going back to the idea of that you are also a human that
Mhm.
needs things like food and yes, yes.
I'm not so sure. Not so sure.
It's well, are there any other, if there's any other questions, I'm seeing some people that are looking forward to your shows coming up. I'm seeing some people that are going to be there, which is awesome.
I look forward to
Um,
meeting you all and playing a show, and hopefully we don't disappoint you.
I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. Oh, and I see one more question. I'm so sorry. It's Shot Azwa 655. How do you decide what to use as cover art?
Um, I don't know. It's whatever moves me. In the old days, I just, I did all the cover art myself. Um, in recent years, like I said, my daughter did one because I was just, blown away by what she did, and so it worked. I usually have an idea of what I want. Dominique Kennedy is an artist that's done a lot of stuff with us. Like I said, she did some stuff with the After All thing too. She's done a bunch of the songs that we've done. Sometimes it's kind of collaborative effort. She and I will work together and put some things together like that. Really
Yeah.
just depends. It depends on how much time there is. It depends on the mood of the song. It depends on any number of things. I guess, like I say, in the old days, I had a little bit more of a form to it, but these days I'm a little bit more like, if it moves me, it works.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, dear friends, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with all of us, for your wonderful questions, and your shares. It's been such a joy, Rogue. I really appreciate you taking your time, and I am so excited about your After All coming up. I'm definitely going to be going and checking that out. I'm really excited about this. So, yeah.
Yeah, and
Any
look for
oh,
Kitsu
sorry, go ahead.
Komore too, because Kitsu Komore has his own Instagram. So the Ben Kingsbury puts together the Instagram for it. So some of the art that I do goes up there on that, and he likes to play with little, I don't know, little filters and stuff, and do things with Kitsu Komore. But I expect some things to happen with that too. I think that's a fun story, and it's kind of almost like our take on the Ninja Turtles, if you will. Sky Fox, and Kitsu Komore. Kitsu's a fox spirit. Komore means bat in Japanese, and yeah, he's a
So,
king.
how do we find this?
You can find that. Let's see if I can look and see here. Kitsukamore. What is this? I think that.
Oh, I think our Scott, yes, Scott just dropped it in the chat.
Okay, great.
Yes,
'Cause
awesome.
I'm
Thank you,
nowhere.
Scott.
I'm going. Yeah, my
We
poor internet skills are themselves on live TV or whatever.
we found it. We found it. Well, thank you all so much again. Please continue your beautiful support of Rogue and the Crüxshadows. Rogue, thank you so much again. It's been such a wonderful, inspiring chat. Sending much love to all of you. Thank you.
Bye to everyone, and thank you all. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully those of you who are able to come to our show in Texas or one of our shows in Texas will make it. And yeah, and if not, let's find some way to see each other.
Yes.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.